The sages said, "O disciple of Vyāsa, O fortunate one, please explain to us authoritatively the fruits granted by Śiva for worship with different flowers." Sūta said, "O sages, Saunaka and others, please listen attentively. I shall lovingly explain to you the mode of offering flowers, which is the same as Brahmā explained to Nārada at his request." Brahmā said, "A person desirous of wealth shall worship Lord Śiva with lotuses, Bilva leaves, petals of lotuses, or with Śaṅkha flowers. O brāhmaṇa, if a devotee worships Śiva with 100 flowers, his sins shall be wiped off, and the devotee shall become rich. 20 full lotuses constitute 1 prastha measure. 1,000 Bilva leaves constitute half a prastha. Petals of lotuses, 1,000 in number, constitute half a prastha. 10 ṭaṅka weight constitutes 1 pala, and 16 palas make 1 prastha. Flowers for worship shall be weighed in the balance according to this calculation. The worship thus duly performed shall accord all cherished desires. If the devotee worships with no specific desires, he will become Śiva himself." O lordly sages, a person desirous of obtaining a kingdom shall propitiate Lord Śiva with the worship of 100 million earthen lingas. Lord Śiva confers a kingdom on the devotee, certainly. He shall use Śiva linga for worship. Flowers shall be used. Unsplit rice grains mixed with sandalwood paste shall be used. The ceremonial ablutions shall be performed. The mantra used shall be pleasing. Bilva leaves are very excellent, or he can use loose petals or full lotuses or Śaṅkha flowers, according to ancient authorities. The worship is divine and accords pleasures and achievement of desires both here and hereafter. He shall not omit other items such as incense, lamps, food offerings, arghya, arati, waving of lights, pradakshina, namaskara, kshamapana, craving forgiveness, and visarjana, the ritualistic dismissal. At the end he shall feed other devotees. A person who yearns for important positions shall worship half the former number. A person desiring release from prison shall worship 100,000 lingas of Śiva. A person afflicted by ailments shall worship half that number. A person desiring a daughter shall worship half that number. A person desirous of learning shall worship half that number. Person desirous of eloquence shall worship Śiva with ghee. In order to drive out enemies, the number of worship is the same as before. For exterminating enemies, worship is for 100,000 times, and for enchantment, worship is half that number. For the conquest of vassal kings, worship for 10 million times is recommended. Or keeping vassal kings under influence, the same for 10,000 times is recommended. For achieving glory with plenty of vehicles, worship for 1,000 times shall be performed. A person desiring salvation shall worship Śiva 5 crore times with deep devotion. A person seeking knowledge shall worship Śiva, the benefactor of the world, 10 million times. A person desiring Śiva's vision shall worship him 5 million times. The Mrityunjaya mantra shall be repeated 500,000 times, when Śiva shall be visible to the devotee and fulfill his desires. If a person repeats the mantra 100,000 times and begins a second installment, he will be lifted to a higher caste. When he completes the third 100,000 times, all his worldly desires will be fulfilled. In the fourth laksha, he will be able to see the Lord. When 50 laksha are completed, the Lord will confer on him all benefits. When the same mantra is repeated 1,000,000 times, the merit is tremendous. A person desirous of liberation shall worship him with darbha. O best of sages, the number everywhere is 100,000 times. A person desirous of long life shall worship him with durva grass. A person desirous of sons shall worship him with datura flowers. A datura plant with red stem is specially auspicious for worship. A worshipper using agastya flowers will earn great fame. Worldly pleasures and salvation will be secured by a person who worships with tulasi. Great valor can be secured by worshipping with arka or kubja kalhar flowers. The worship with japa flowers, China rose, brings about the death of enemies. Karavira flowers drive away all ailments. By worshipping with bandhuka flowers, the devotee will get ornaments. With jati flowers, he will acquire good vehicles. With atasi flowers, he will attain favor of Vishnu. With shami leaves, he will secure salvation. With malika flowers, he will secure an auspicious woman. With the splendid utika flowers, he will not be deprived of a house. With karnikar flowers, he will secure plenty of garments. With nirgundi flowers, his mind becomes pure in the world. 100,000 Bilva leaves used for worship will secure the fulfillment of all desires. Use of lovely flowers in the form of garlands increases happiness and wealth. Use of seasonal flowers for worship yields liberation. There is no doubt in this. The flowers of Rajika bring about the death of enemies. 100,000 Rajika flowers shall be used for the worship of Śiva. The benefit accruing will be very great. Excepting the champaka and the ketaka, there is no flower which does not appeal to Śiva. All other flowers can be used for worshipping him. Now, O excellent one, listen to the quantity of and the benefit accruing from grains and pulses in their use for worship of Śiva. Heaping up rice grains by way of worship causes prosperity. 6.5 prastha and 2 palas of rice grains constitute 100,000 grains. These shall be used in their unsplit form for the worship of Śiva. Worship of Rudra shall be performed first, and a fine cloth shall be spread over the linga. The rice grains shall be put over the cloth at the time of worship. At the end of worship, a coconut shall be placed with scents and flowers, etc., and fumigated with incense. The devotee shall attain the benefit of worship. Silver coins and black gram shall be given as a fee to the priest, as much as for 2 prajapatya ceremonies. If the devotee cannot afford it, he shall give according to his capacity. Thereafter, 12 brāhmanas shall be fed. The whole of this then constitutes the Lakshapaja, complete in its details and with requisite mantras. The mantras shall be repeated 108 times. That is the rule. 100,000 sesame seeds used for worship destroy even great sins. 11 palas of sesame seeds constitute 100,000. The mode of worship is the same as before. Those who desire beneficent results shall perform the puja. Brahmanas shall be fed. Hence, only those who can afford shall perform this. Certainly all miseries due to great sins perish instantaneously. Performance of the worship of Śiva with 100,000 barley grains is highly efficacious. 8.5 prasthas and 2 palas of barley grains constitute 100,000, according to ancient calculation. The worship with barley grains, the sages say, increases heavenly pleasures. Brahmanas desiring the benefit shall perform the rite of prajapatya. The worship of Śiva with wheat grains is highly praiseworthy. If 100,000 grains are used for worship, the devotee shall be blessed with a number of children. Half a drona of wheat will constitute 100,000 grains. The mode of worship is as before. O best among sages, the measurement and number of grains and pulses have been explained to you by me. O Lord of sages, now listen to the calculation of 100,000 in the case of flowers. A prastha of Śaṅkha flowers constitutes 100,000, says Vyāsa, who knows the exact measurement and calculation. 11 prasthas of jati and utica flowers constitute 100,000. 5.5 prasthas of rajika flowers also constitute so many. 20 prasthas of mallika flowers constitute 100,000, while so many flowers of sesame plant measure a little less than a prastha. Karavira flowers measure 3 times that. Scholars say that the flowers of Nirgundi too measure likewise. In Karnikara and Sirisha flowers too, the same mode of calculation holds good. 10 prasthas of Bandhujiva flowers constitute 100,000. The devotee shall perform the worship of Śiva with different flowers after considering these modes of calculation for the fulfillment of desires, if he has any, or for the sake of salvation, if he has no desire. Now I shall explain the benefit of great potentiality accruing from dhara puja, a mere listening to which is conducive to great welfare. After performing the regular worship of Śiva, with great devotion in accordance with prescribed rules, the devotees shall pour water in a continuous stream. This dhara worship is very efficacious in delirium due to fever. At that time, Shatarudriya mantra, Rudraikadasha mantra, Rudrajapya mantra, Purushu Shukta, Sadanga mantra, Mahamrityunjaya mantra, Gayatri, names ending with Namaha and beginning with Pranava, or Agama mantra shall be repeated. The dhara worship is very excellent in regard to flourishing series of pleasures. Different types of auspicious materials of worship shall be added to the water. If dhara worship is performed with ghee continuously while 1,000 mantras are repeated, the family will undoubtedly flourish. Thus, the worship of Śiva shall be performed with the mantras mentioned by me. Sages have held that brāhmanas shall be fed, and the prajapatya rite shall be performed. Milk without sugar is usually used for the dhara. If the devotee is deficient in intellect and yearns for the same, sugar shall be added to milk for the sake of dhara. His intellect will become as keen as that of Brihaspati. The dhara shall be continued till 10,000 mantras are completely repeated. If there is any crack or laceration in the body without an apparent cause, if there is any uncommon increase of love or misery anywhere, or if there be frequent quarrels in the house, miseries will perish when the dhara worship is performed. Oil dhara shall be performed on Shiva Linga for harassing enemies. Success in the enterprise is certain. If scented oil is used, worldly pleasures will be increased. If mustard oil is used, enemies will be exterminated undoubtedly. If honey is used, the devotee will become Kubera, god of wealth. The dhara of sugarcane juice is conducive to all pleasures. The dhara of Ganga water yields worldly pleasures and salvation. In all these dharas, Mrityunjaya mantra shall be muttered 10,000 times. 11 brahmanas shall be fed. O lordly saint, what I have been asked, I have now explained to you completely. This will be fruitful in the world and will contribute to the achievement of all desires. I shall now tell you, as I have heard, the benefit accruing from the due worship of Śiva in the company of Skanda and Uma. He will enjoy in this world all kinds of auspicious pleasures with sons and grandsons. Then he will go to the region of Śiva that is conducive to all happiness. He will enjoy happy sports with Shiva's attendants, move about in aerial chariots that can go anywhere they please and that shine like 10 million suns, and will be served by Rudra's maidens with songs and instrumental music till the time of dissolution. Then he will attain perfect knowledge and ultimately salvation.